The final Neolithic period in Greece started in the mid-5th millennium BCE. By 4500 BCE, the traditional Neolithic economy, which was based on farming and stock rearing, began its gradual transformation. Production activities were significantly increased, especially the newly emerging production of metals such as copper, silver, and gold. For this reason, the final Neolithic period is also known as Chalcolithic or the Copper Age. During this time, the regional trade in the Aegean started to flourish, resulting in increased population and urbanization of the coastal areas. With wealth came power, and its concentration around a limited group of individuals led to the birth of early ruling classes. This allowed more powerful families to gain predominance over the others and obtain political control over their respective settlements. Furthermore, the more powerful settlements were able to carry out raids and sometimes even destructive attacks into other areas, bringing home loot, but also the enemy captives. These captives, naturally, became slaves. Thus, the final Neolithic political system included a ruler, typically a head of the most powerful family that held control over the settlement, then numerous other families which comprised the bulk of the inhabitants who were the free people, and finally the slaves. The Copper Age weapons included copper axes, spears, nails, but also wooden clubs with stone or copper attachments, stone projectiles for slings, and many other weapons that were still in use since the Stone Ages. This era, which marked the rise of early political systems, also marked the rise of warfare and subsequently the need for better protection. Here, we notice two different cultural styles that acquired the dominant role throughout the Aegean. One is known by the scholars as the Rakmani culture and was mainly based in central Greece around the region of Thessaly. The settlements were well fortified, consisting of one or several layers of ditches, followed by walls, and finally an especially strong position for the town's citadel. A prime example of such settlement is Demini, which still represented a major cultural and economic center in the region. The houses were now made of rectangular stone, and for the first time we notice the use of the apsidal buildings. The other culture which simultaneously emerged in southern Greece and the Aegean islands is known as the Atika Kepala culture. Unlike Thessaly, where threats of the land invasions were constant, the island-based and coastal communities were less heavily fortified and in many cases relied on a natural protection such as caves and elevated positions on which they built their towns and villages. These settlements were mainly based on stock rearing, metalworking, and trade. On the Cyclades, it is at this time that we see the extensive exploitation of lead-silver ore. The presence of both silver and gold jewelry, as well as copper jewelry, appears in many locations, such as the Diros caves in Laconia, Zas cave on Naxos, and Kistos cave on Attica. The use of obsidian was also widespread, especially in signifying the status of social prestige. The ruling families of the settlements across Greece as far as Macedon reportedly used rectangular and leaf-shaped spearheads made of obsidian as the symbol of power and leadership. Local rulers were now buried together with various jewelry, weapons, and their symbols of prestige. While the burial customs remained similar to the earlier period throughout much of Greece, the organization of cemeteries started appearing in places such as the Cyclades, the Dodecanese, and Euboea. Production and use of pottery was also significantly increased. While the monochrome burnished pottery was used both in Thessaly, the Greek coastlands, and the islands, Thessaly is also noted for the production of painted pottery, typically in red or white colors. Besides jewelry and pottery, Notable is also the appearance of the figurines, produced in the so-called anthropomorphic style. The second half of the 4th millennium BCE marked the transition of the Copper Age to the early Bronze Age and the emergence of distinct and more developed cultures across the Aegean. The Cycladic culture would be shortly followed by the society of the Minoans, as well as the emerging cultures on the Greek mainland, all of which we will talk about in the future. To check out our half-an-hour-long video on the history of the Minoan civilization, click the link in the video description. We're introducing the Super Thanks. The Super Thanks button allows you, the viewers, to show an extra gratitude to the channel and get your comments highlighted and noticed not only by myself but other viewers as well. Underneath the video, you will see a heart with a $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable. Hopefully you enjoy the content. Special thanks to History with Sai, Nico, Chris Ernst, Panayotis Yiannopoulos, Fred Leckie, Tim Lane, Derek Wildstar, ABC Shake, Padre91, Argyris Margaritis, Huel Sally Briggs, Labelle Olmier, Vineyard Illumination, and Estate Care on their continuous support. If you wish to discuss and decide on the future content, feel free to join us on Patreon. Special shout out to Romulus Augustus. This was WanaxTV, and we'll see you again soon.